Today I've decided to base my sermon around the proverb, two sides of the same coin. I recall from the summer holidays a Sunday that enhanced and changed my perception of the preaching of the Gospels. I was staying with Isaac Sumfun in his house in North London for a long weekend, and after a lengthy discussion about Christian music, it was agreed that we should attend Isaac's local gospel church. I was very much looking forward to the experience. Coming from a Church of England background, I'd never attended a gospel church before, and after listening to gospel music for some time in the company of Isaac, I was very keen to hear it be performed live. This was the plan, but being me and Isaac, there was a low-slung cloud. Punctuality. In the end, we were only half an hour late, a personal best for the two of us. When our Uber dropped us off, I realised after examining my fellow late arrivers, I was clearly the odd one out. My fellow members of the congregation were donned in elegant African attire, though I felt my polished brogues and Avonvale hunt tie were somewhat of a cheese to their chalk. We got to the door of what looked like any old grey building on the trading estate. We were instantly greeted with pinned smiles and warmly gestures. Once we were in the heart of the building itself was what seemed to be some sort of reclaimed warehouse. The building was set up like a conference or a small concert, strobe lights and bright projections, with cameras feeding a live transmission to online members of the congregation. I not only realised my tie and shoes stood out, but I was also the only white person there. It was an incredibly complex feeling. I didn't feel any hate or judgment. I just knew with passing other members of the congregation a small acceptance that I was different, not cut from the same cloth. It was an experience that I will cling on to. The pastor himself was a larger-than-life character who was extremely engaging, inviting the congregation to sail through the Bible, jumping from one gospel to another, to make meaning of his teachings and relate them to the scriptures. It was truly tantalising. I left Jesus' house with much to think about, but also with a spring in my step. After discussing the service with Isaac, we inevitably reached a debate. Which is better, gospel music or the music of that of the Church of England? Seeing as there's still plenty of time in the day, I decided to take Isaac to Evensong at Westminster Abbey. As we found ourselves in the novel position of being early, we took time to contemplate life while sitting by the Thames near Westminster Bridge. Then we took a casual stroll through the anti-vaxxers to the Abbey. I had been there before, but for Isaac I felt for him it was a shock being in a church bigger than our own abbey at school. And the other thing about Westminster Abbey is there are more tombs and memorials than there are members of the congregation. You can't walk more than 10 yards without standing on a dead person. Though the great thing about any cathedral is the thick walls. They can perfectly block out the surrounding noises that London produces. And after explaining to Isaac about how the sermon would be linked to current affairs, therefore making it just as engaging as the pastor's preachings, I was disappointed to turn to see Isaac in deep slumber, as the Dean of Westminster talked about the current situation in Afghanistan. Though I can't blame his slumber, the smoothness in the music can only be compared to that of a vintage champagne. On that Sunday, we went through two church experiences that endlessly differentiated, and we were both totally aware about how these differences were widely talked about and argued about. But with our experiences, we found notable similarities between both churches. We found warmth, compassion, and we left both buildings with an optimistic view of the world around us. We were both calm and restful, and we both found ourselves wanting to do more for others. Westminster Abbey and Jesus' house may be polar opposites, but they are both centred around kindness, compassion and warmth. Like a coin itself, Parliament and monarchy on their own separate sides, but with both the same end goal, for the country to thrive. Dare I say, even teachers and students. Two sides of the same coin, but with the same end goal.